Is this on? That's better. 5 days till Christmas, guys! Maniacs, it's Hillmanator. Today I thought I'd cover what my first term at Lancaster has actually been like. Who's ready for all that mad goss? Did you really just use the term mad goss? Yeah, so what? It just sounds a bit weird coming from you. Oh, shut up, Darren. So sit back, relax, and I shall tell you the story of Hillmanator at Lancaster. I don't know why I'm doing this with my eyebrows, but seems like a thing to do. Well, that was concerning. Freshers Week was a lot of fun, but I feel like there's too much to go into during that week, so I'm going to save that for another video. But then immediately after Freshers, we all had Monday, the first day of actual term. Those of you who have watched my week in the life know I don't have anything going on Monday. So I essentially spent my first day at uni doing absolutely nothing. Brilliant. Then came Tuesday morning and my first seminar, that was actually film. So I went along to that, and there was surprisingly a guy who I had met during Freshers Week in there from my course. Not mine specifically, I think I'm the only one doing the combo of religious studies and philosophy, but he was a fellow philosophy student. So that made that a lot easier. I already knew someone, and that allowed me to quite easily get around, and I did ask everyone their names. I remember precisely 3 of them, at a stretch. There are about 8 to 16 people in your average seminar. I'm doing well, aren't I? Then I had my first lecture, which was actually philosophy that day. And I have to say, those first couple of weeks where we were just doing epistemology, in fact, the entire first term for me, for philosophy, has been relatively... It's not easy by any stretch of the imagination. But the problem is I had already done all of the topics that we did in depth at A-level, and my A-level teacher was really good at it. So epistemology and utilitarianism, I was more than aware of their theories. I understood a lot of those theories before I even got to the lecture, which you would think would mean that I would have an advantage in our seminars when we were talking about it. But I suck at articulating my ideas. Now, seminars throughout this first term have all been kind of awkward. None of us really know each other that well in any of my seminar groups. We aren't particularly close. We've tried to get to know each other, and I might remember some of their names and where they're from, but beyond that, I have no idea who most of these people are, and I feel like they would say the exact same about me, because we just don't generally interact outside of their seminars. Those that I do interact with I know quite a bit better. For example, I've got a friend who's kind of from Japan as well as California and Arizona, and he's really into old music. I've got another friend who's actually from Carmarthen, and another person who I met in the same seminar who originally lived in Newport, so us 3 all bonded over our collective living in Wales-ness, I guess. John, where you going? Certain lecturers have been far more enthusiastic than others. They've wanted to get us involved a lot more, whereas most of my lecturers have been very stand at the front and talkish. You will always get at least one question in a lecture, but the guy who has just taught me utilitarianism, would always ask a whole string of questions throughout every lecture, and it was good because it allowed us to actually explore some different ideas, but at the same time it did kind of slow everything down. RS has been good because it's been looking at religion so far that I haven't studied since before GCSE. At my school for GCSE we had to study Islam and Christianity, and then at A-level we would only study Islam. So I haven't been looking at Hinduism or Buddhism since I was 15. Heck, 14 actually, because throughout the entirety of year 9 we essentially just looked at moral problems. So RS has been nice and refreshing at least. In film we've watched quite a few good things like Jaws and Psycho, but at the same time, we did have to watch Charlie's Angels 2. I know, there is a sequel. Don't seek it out though, it's not really worth watching. Maybe I'll review it someday. But in terms of the stuff we've learned in lectures, I did know a bit of it, but nowhere near in as much detail as they actually get into, so it has been useful. And yes, for those of you who are either going to be taking philosophy, religious studies, or film at a university, there's a lot of reading. Oh my gosh, so much reading. Each of these subjects on their own is considered a bit of a thing about reading, so as you can imagine, doing them all together, I've had a lot to get on with. And yeah, I've still found time to hang out with friends and have a social life. See, that's the thing, because I have so few contact hours but so much reading, it roughly equates to the same as someone who has a lot of contact hours but not much, which a few courses do. Societies have generally been quite good. I haven't had a big argument with any sort of society leader or anything, and the socials have generally been quite fun, although I will say the sports socials almost always include drinking, so if you're not game for that, then they may be a bit awkward for you. That's not to say you can't not drink when you're there. In fact, I haven't found anyone who I would really say was really pressured into drinking. One of our flatmates was kind of pressured a bit, but she had said before the pressure actually started that she had been considering doing it before university, so... And personally I haven't had anyone try anything with drugs, so, you know, there's no pressure at all there. Oh, you'll smell it around campus. A lot. But no one has tried to get me to try anything as of yet. And trust me, I wouldn't if they did. How are your flatmates, by the way? I haven't asked. Yeah, my flatmates have all been quite nice. There's a couple that keep themselves more to themselves, and a couple that are far more extroverted, but you would expect that wherever you go, especially at a university. The thing is, I don't generally hang out with all of my flat that much. The main people that I've been hanging out with for this term have been a couple of people from my flat and a couple from the flat below. But I do hang out with the other members of my flat as well, and we've all had a lot of fun together. There are disputes and small arguments, generally about someone playing something too loud or in an inappropriate place doing stuff, but in general, nothing that severe. And luckily, the walls up at Lancaster are actually surprisingly thick, so I haven't had to hear much of anything from any of my flatmates. You'll hear it if you're in the corridor, but in general, you're probably fine. I know no one's complained about my music, and I have a tendency to play it quite loud and quite late. The city of Lancaster is incredibly small. Like, to put it in perspective, Newport has a population of over 150,000 and is considered quite a small city. Lancaster has a population of 50,000, and a large number of those are students. The students have a tendency to overrun the city a bit. It's not surprising, seeing as we make up practically 2/5 of the population. But in general, the locals don't seem to mind us. They're actually quite welcoming to us, so I wouldn't say it's that much of a problem in general. It's not like I've heard it is at other universities where there's very much discontent between the people and the students. We have had a couple of idiots up here though. Unfortunately, in November we did have those people running around on a white t-shirt social with various anti-Semitic, racist and sexist remarks all over their t-shirts. But the university has intervened and that event shouldn't be happening again. There is no precedent of it happening. We've had campaigns and stuff on campus, there are posters literally everywhere. So fingers crossed people aren't going to be utter idiots again. Fair warning to you southerners, there's a lot more northerners up here. So if they rebel, run and hide. You get used to the accents quite quickly. That is, if you aren't already aware of the accents through various soaps or TV shows or whatever. Now, there are a couple of pains in the backside around campus. For example, there's always building work going on as far as I can tell. They've been adding a whole load of railings down the south spine recently, just to make sure that everything's safe and there aren't going to be any sudden drops of anything or anyone, which is, I can respect it, but it's a pain. It doesn't keep you up at night and it doesn't really slow you down, but it's just not ideal. And once the work is done, then the areas will be much wider because they won't have to have all the building equipment there and people will be able to travel quicker, and it'll just make me so much happier. Another downside is that taxis are bloomin' expensive up there. I think from town to the uni one night cost us about £10.20, and bear in mind that's like 2.7 miles, so it's really not that far. Comparatively, from Newport City Centre to where I live, it's £4. So the taxis are expensive, but on the plus side, the sugar bus is a lifesaver. For those of you that don't know, the university-run nightclub is called Sugar, and there is a free bus that runs throughout the night to take you there and to take you back. It is brilliant, but it can get packed relatively quickly, so make sure that you get on there early. Alternatively, the actual buses are surprisingly good. They come relatively often, and there are actually buses that go right the way around the back of campus, which is great for someone like me who lives in a college which is right on the far side from where the buses actually come in. It'll also be helpful if you're living in like Cartmel, Lonsdale, or Pendle Posh, as we like to call it. The university bookshop is expensive, but so is every university bookshop, because they're all the same bookshops. Every university that I've been to has the exact same company running their bookshop, and so they can effectively charge whatever they want. But you can still go into town and get your books from there, or you can go on Amazon and order them. The Amazon orders actually come relatively often, and the porters will help you make sure you get your parcels. Overall, I'd say that my time at Lancaster University has been good. There have been a couple of small issues, but in general, I've loved it. And that is everything for today. I hope that you've enjoyed it, and I hope that you're going to come back and check in tomorrow, where Vlogmas will continue. Okay, thanks for watching all. I shall catch you next time.